There's a lot of questions in the universe. Where did we come from? Do aliens exist? Whatever happened to Twinkies? But the question that we're going to ask today is, can you beat Knights of the Old Republic using only the Force? That's what we're going to find out, and we're going to have a load of fun on the way, so let's get right to the video. We start off this playthrough by picking and customizing our character. I kind of went with the good old best, look, which is this guy right here. We did max intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. I can't even say intelligence. Did persuasion, treat injury, and then security on this one so we can open doors, and then treat ourselves when we're wounded, because this is going to be really, really difficult to go through the entire game. Then we finally picked our character's name. Now, I wanted to go with a traditional name, and then I realized we're going to be the best Sith Lord to ever grace Star Wars. Might as well call ourselves Darth Jar Jar Binks. And then we hit play to start our amazing adventure. We wake up from one too many drinks in the cantina to find the ship is getting under attack. We meet this lovely trooper that tells us to put our clothes back on, and then we get yelled at by Careth over the communication system. We then encounter our first battle, and we run into a big issue here. With the beginning of Knights of the Old Republic, you can't use the Force. Unfortunately, you can't use the Force until the very end of the game, or roughly not through the end of the game, but halfway through the game. So, I came up with a strategy. I'm not killing these guys, and I can't do damage to them, but Trask can. So, with Trask and with all our other companions, I am essentially going to disable all weapons on my character, and my companions must kill each character or each enemy without my help. All I can do is stand there and look pretty, and essentially just hope to God that they're able to kill them. We're going to do this until roughly the end of the game, once we get force powers. I keep saying till the end of the game. And once we get force powers, we'll easily be able to go through this. We get through the Ender Spire uneventfully, as, Trask is the only one able to do damage to these enemies. I also forgot to mention in this challenge, since we want to maximize our force points, I can't level up until I actually unlock the force points. So therefore, we are actually going to remain at level 1 throughout the entirety of the game. Technically level 2, as you actually need to level up to get past a certain point, and there is no way to bypass that without this insane glitch that I wasn't able to do. So we are going to level up at least once. But so far, Ender Spire, not really a problem. Unfortunately, the time that it does become a problem is when Trask goes off to fight Darth Bandon. This is where we are stuck on our own, as the next part of this section you cannot do without killing enemies. Now, my thinking on this understanding is technically you're not killing the enemies by yourself. The grenades are killing the enemies. So I tossed 2 frag grenades at the 2 Sith soldiers here so then I could access the droid in front of me. Because, like I had said, I can't kill enemies with my weapons. Grenades don't count as weapons, they count as grenades. Technically, the force of the grenade is killing them, so we are technically using the force. So what I do is I reactivate the droid, and then let that thing kill all the Sith soldiers in the next room. Once the droid has killed all the enemies in the room, we then run into Careth, and talking to him for a bit, we now have another fire team member where he can kill the ads for us. And we escape the Ender Spire with a few scratches. Technically haven't failed the challenge yet, but we still have time to fail, unfortunately. Crash landing on Terrace, we actually hit our head and have a dream about fighting some Jedi. We then talk to Careth, and he informs us that we are trapped in the world and there is no way to get off, but we must find the Jedi Knight Bastila. So, using Careth and having him on our team, he will make quick work of any ads in the game. As soon as we exit the apartment, we find that 2 Duros are getting harassed by Sith soldiers, so we're already going to have our first battle from the get-go. One of the Duros get gunned down, and then the soldier realizes that we're Republic troops and turns around to try and shoot us. As usual, I run away like a scaredy cat while Careth kills them. Taurus is pretty uneventful besides jumping and gunning down a random woman in her apartment like it is absolutely nothing as she pulled out a fucking sword to slice us up. We end up talking to the penis-headed alien down the road in the apartment building, which I'm 900% sure he's actually just a registered pedophile living in an area with kids. We then encounter Sith soldiers who flirt our way and invite us to a party, And then we end up getting so hammered that it is exactly like the Endor Spire situation in the beginning of the game. We steal their Sith armor and make it down to the lower levels, where we encounter a bunch of gang members that just so happen to be fighting with electric dildos, giant swords, and guns that are 10 times bigger than Careth's and mine. That is not a dick joke. I am just, being blatant and blunt. We actually got gunned down on this part, and I was probably stuck on it for 45 minutes because I can't do the damage. Only Careth can do the damage. So, unfortunately, there is 6 aliens that are trying to kill me, and aka I just ran away in a Sith costume trying to fight for my life as I ran the opposite way where more ads were. After 45 minutes of doing that, we encounter the bounty hunter Kalo Nord, where 3 guys decided to jump him like it is nothing, and then he proceeded to just gun them down like it was nothing. In my haste, I decided to strike up a conversation with the nice man, and I say I'm going to be going now because if we keep talking to him, he can one-shot us because he is like level 12 and we are level 2 still. After some screwing around in the cantina and just dancing the night away, because look at my amazing dance moves, we end up going into the Hidden Beck base to proceed with the game. We reach the bottom pit of Terrace. Terrace? Anyways, this is probably the hardest part of the game. I am not kidding. There are 2 parts in this game that are hard. The beginning of Taurus and the end of the game. The reason why is because the rat ghouls are probably the worst enemies to ever grace any game. They poison the crap out of you, they do an absurd amount of damage, and overall, they just suck, essentially. So we're in the most wonderful part. After barely being able to even kill the rat ghouls, Careth and I discover that Mission needs our help because the Wookiee Zalbar was taken. I didn't even introduce her in the cantina because you can actually skip that part and you can be like, who the hell is this? So this is Mission. I level her up a bit because, like I said, I need to level up, not them. Or sorry, I can't level up, they can. Whatever. You guys know what I mean. After perilous journeys through the Taurus underworld, we finally reach the sewers. And the sewers have a bunch of Gamorrean guards. You guys know them from Return of the Jedi. And a couple rat ghouls. They're not too tedious. I did say the rat ghouls are very difficult, but as long as you have 1, maybe 2 of them, you don't have anything to worry about. So we just made our way through the sewers and proceeded to find Zalbar, who was taken captive. I also wanted to add in this, I can repair droids to help me because like I had said, I need to kill enemies using the Force. I can't use anything else otherwise, unless I literally can't get through the game, but we shall see about that. After rescuing Zalbar, we needed Mission to get through this force field, and overall I kind of wanted Zalbar and Careth. While Mission is an okay character to have, I would much rather have Zalbar as he's a giant Wookiee, so I mean, why else wouldn't I want him? It's as simple as that. We now have faced our first obstacle of the game. The reason I say this is because in this part with the Rancor, what you originally do is you put a frag grenade in that corpse, and then you put a little bit of a pheromone to blow up the Rancor so it eats the grenade, etc., etc. I wanted to avoid that as much as possible, so I tried a bunch of methods. The Rancor will one-shot you no matter what, so I decided to just book it. My fire team was still with me, so I go through the sewer door, but we run into an issue. Because my team is down and there are enemies in the area, they can't respawn and I can't go through the door, which means if I even go near that door or I go near the Rancor, as you guys can see, it's a death sentence. Now what I did is I tried getting rid of my party and then proceeding through the door, completely skipping the ads, activating an energy shield to absorb more damage, and once I was in the Black Vulcar base, I was just going to fast travel my party back to me. You cannot do party selection in this area. You can only do it in the sewer, which unfortunately there are enemies, and I can't exactly bring them with me. Now that I think about it, I actually could, but because I was in combat, I can't do a thing. So I'm stuck. So after debating for about 25-30 minutes, I decided the only way I can get past this part is by giving the pheromone. Now, this is the workaround. I did not put the actual grenade in there. 2 grenades actually spawn. So, now that we think about it, I didn't kill the Rancor. The game did. So therefore, since I used the synthesized odors to proceed through the quest, I technically didn't kill the Rancor. That game that just so happened to have grenades in the inventory slot killed the Rancor, allowing me to move on into the Black Vulcar base. After clearing out the area and having my fire team kill any remaining enemies both in the garage and the actual Black Vulcar base, we now encounter the next hard part about the game. This guy right here is one of the heaviest hitters in the game in the beginning. Like I had said, there are only a few enemies in this game that will give you trouble. The primary issue as to why he is an issue is because he has an energy shield, and at the higher difficulties, which we were playing on the highest difficulty to try to give us the maximum number of efficiency, essentially, to kind of make the game a bit harder. This was a big problem for me. Like I had said, I can't do damage to them. I can't do anything. So I decided by myself to lower the difficulty and lure him towards a droid to damage him. This worked in the beginning until the droid died and he killed me. So after multiple attempts, I lowered the difficulty, gave Zalbar and Careth anything I could to make their damage inseparable from one another, and we proceeded to gun them down like they were nothing. Returning to the Hidden Beck base with the accelerator in hand, we talked to Gadden and he asked us to spend the night, which is a little bit odd now that I said that out loud. The Hidden Becks take us in the morning to the swoop bike race where we compete to win over Bastila from the Hidden Beck? No, Black Vulcars. I've always liked the swoop bike race section of this game. I think that it greatly mirrors pod racing, and honestly, while people hate pod racing, I think that this is kind of fun. I mean, you get to Manon in this game, and you can kind of just overall kick ass. But anyways, let's continue. We win both races like it was nothing because I am the skilled master at swoop bike racing, and Bredjik ends up betraying us. Bastila gets out of her cage, and we come to the next part of the game that will be difficult. While we were approaching the end of Taurus, this section we don't have any companions, and unfortunately we only have Bastila. Since we are level 2, if we even get shot by anyone, we instantly die like you can see on screen. So my strategy for this fight was to essentially run around the arena and activate an energy shield. I end up punching one of the guys by accident, and luckily for me, Bastila can kill them. If she wasn't able to kill them, the challenge would be failed instantly, but since we have the energy shields, and since Bastila is our companion in this section, we don't have to worry about that. The best thing about this is since she's technically our companion, but she's not registered on our HUD as a companion, if that makes sense, she'll have infinite health. The problem is enemies will still be able to shoot you, and enemies will target her as she is essentially the key combatant in the area. I kind of just ran around here for a while until Bastila finally killed Bredjik in the last Black Vulcar, which it's like she couldn't have killed, I don't know, the guy with a gun, but, you know, we're not going to talk about that as I failed just as I was about to complete it. After contemplating my life story for a bit, we finally end up rescuing Bastila and take her back to the apartment. That sounded very sexual in that way that I said that. And now we have to escape Taurus. Now, the original plan of this is you're supposed to go grab T3M3 from the droid shop, and I had forgotten about this, but as I went to the military base door and talked to it or interacted it with Bastila, the game decided to glitch out and put me, Careth, and Bastila in the Sith base. I don't know how this happened. I kind of just rolled with it. This entire playthrough was very, very glitchy. If I would heal, I would end up having to do a quick save and reload from that spot, because I wouldn't be able to move, which was scaring me. Now at this section, I kind of thought it would be a good idea to play as Bastila and essentially just use the Force powers. I quickly disregarded this as this challenge is can I beat it using only the Force as my character. You know, I can use other Force character abilities, but I kind of decided to not do anything on my characters because I didn't and couldn't use force powers yet. Another thing is Bastila's force meter is very, very low. You can probably use one force ability, and that's really it. Unfortunately, I kind of chose dark side abilities for Bastila, and seeing this now, in the game, there are universal powers, dark side powers, and light side powers. Whatever your alignment is in the game will determine what your force powers do, how much damage they will do, and how much force meter they will use up. Looking back at this, could have used Bastila's Stasis Field, I think? Stasis Field or Shockwave, but I digress. While in the Sith base, we encounter the same Duros from the beginning of the game. I was trying to kill him for dark side points, and I accidentally freed him. I mean, I'll take it, but it would have been funny to see a pile of ash. And he kind of just books it out of the base like it's nothing. After going through the Sith base and finding a discount droideka, which these things are a lot cooler than the ones from the original trilogy, the prequels, and killing discount Johnny Sins, we end up making it out of the Sith base, going to grab T3, because why not, talking to Canderous, and finally we initiate the cutscene to escape Terrace. Unfortunately, Darth Malak, which is the guy with no jaw, wants to bomb the ever-living shit out of us, which is just great. So now we are also on the clock. After getting through Davik's base and barely escaping Taurus with our lives, we grab our party, steal the Ebon Hawk, which is probably the best ship in the Star Wars lore, which is, in my opinion, better than the Millennium Falcon. We now go on to the section where we need to kill the Sith fighters. Now, I did say there are sections in this game that require you to play a mini-game, and technically these Sith fighters are comprised of, well, droids, if you think about it, and, you know, they do say don't get cocky, kid, in the original trilogy, so we are using the Force in this sense. This is a meme challenge, guys, so just relax. After the Sith fighter section of the game, we arrive on Dantooine, where we actually meet the Jedi Council. Now, I know the Jedi Council's on Coruscant, but basically we talk to them, and now they tell us that we're going to be trained to be a Jedi. I was so thankful to finally get to this section of the actual game, primarily because, well, you know, we ran into that problem of us not being able to do essentially any damage to anyone, and that was a big issue because, you know, letting all our companions and Bastila and essentially everyone else, you know, work on the enemies, it was a pain in the ass. Now, if you notice during the entire run, or what I'm going to explain to you, is I didn't level up a single time. The reason we did this is because whatever level you are, the enemies are scaled to that level, but whatever XP you have, they're scaled to that amount of XP. So even though you're level 2, they'll be scaled to, for example, level 9. If that makes sense. That sounded really confusing the way I worded it, but essentially we go through the whole training montage and we become a Jedi. The whole reason, again, why I stayed at level 2 is because we want as many force points as possible, because if you're level 9 or level 10 and you get to Dantooine and you level up your character, you'll end up having less force points, primarily because you didn't really, you know, level up as much, if that makes sense. So I did this, and, you know, now that we're on Dantooine and now that we're able to get a Jedi, we're going to have twice as many force points and twice as many abilities, so that way this run becomes 10 times easier. For this run, I chose to do the Jedi Consular. The reason we did this is because the Consular, instead of focusing on combat and the Sentinel focusing on a mix between the two, the Consular just focuses on force abilities. So once we level up, I decided, you know, invest more points in treat injury, security, and persuasion. Those are the primary ones for me. For feats, we don't really need to invest really anything here, as we're not going to be using anything in this category. We can choose either implants or bonus persuasion or armor. I made the mistake of doing armor, and this restricts force abilities. So I also chose to do dark side this playthrough because whatever force alignment you are, it does damage and bonus damage and less force points for whatever thing, or force ability you use. So since we're going to be using dark side abilities, and say that we were to run, you know, a dark side character, less force points are used so we can do more damage. But I did make another mistake in this run. I chose to go with the stun droid instead of just, you know, pure dark side powers. So this kind of screwed me over majority of the run, I would say. Same thing with force push, etc. Those are all light side abilities, so they require more force. Initially for this, I chose wound, which will lead to force kill, and then I also chose stun droid as well. That was another issue, but I chose shock to go through because, you encounter a lot of droids in this, and we can use shock. So overall, I kind of just upgrade, wisdom as well. So I'm telling you guys this in case you want to replicate this run. And essentially just focus on one tier. Light side abilities are really good. Some of them you get AoE abilities that do major damage early in the game, and with dark side, you get force abilities that do major damage towards the end of the game. That is fine. Essentially, we just have to focus on smaller targets. After that, we encounter our first Cath hounds, and I made the mistake again of using Force Shock. Force Shock is one of my favorite abilities because, you can kind of be like Emperor Palpatine. But with the Cath Hounds, we have to essentially run back every time, and we have to reload a save state because, I damaged the Cath Hound with this, blah, 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 blah. So, we just encountered that problem. The Cath Hounds on Dantooine proved to not really be an issue. Sometimes they resist force kill, etc., but we take them down with ease. This fight here in the next little section here with Juhani is what I was worried about the most. Since we're doing a dark side playthrough, we are actually going to kill her. The major issue with Juhani is I was worried she would resist my force abilities. That wasn't the issue here. I would run out of force, and, we just did the fight till we whittled down her health. Now, we didn't run into a major issue with Juhani. The fight was over within 5 to 10 minutes of just running back and forth. Now, we did end up getting some corrupted footage, but basically with Dantooine, it was pretty easy, and the first planet I kind of picked was Korriban. As you can see, the footage kind of looks a bit different because I kind of had to, enhance the footage a bit here and there. Basically, this girl is mad that we killed her girlfriend, Juhani, and yeah, that's about it. We kind of just keep force choking her until she dies, and then we try to get into the Sith Academy. Once inside, we have to do a bunch of meaningless tasks to get into the Starforge location, and we need to find all of them on every planet. And then we encounter Kalo Nord. You remember him? Yeah, I don't. We easily kill him with ease. He doesn't really put up too much a fight. I mean, we kind of shit-talk him here and there, but overall, I kind of just force lightning his ass, and he's kind of just fried within a couple minutes. Overall, Korriban didn't really give me too much trouble. I mean, there was the part in the tomb with the Sith Assassin droid, which was actually resistant to all of my abilities, but all I had to do was essentially just, go through the motions and level up a bit more. Some enemies in this game have a higher force resistance than others. That Sith Assassin droid, the albino Cath Hound on Dantooine are key examples. Darth Malak is also a key example, and then a few other select enemies in the game, but I digress. Overall, this fight here took me probably a couple attempts, I ended up siding with neither of them and got way more dark side points, and luckily I was able to do Force Insanity. Unfortunately, I did end up getting a little bit of a hiccup in the run by, getting Force choked by, I believe it was Master Uthar, but I just overall kept doing Force Insanity over and over and over, because at this point I had enough Force energy to be able to do all these abilities. When it came down to it, essentially for this run, you want to do maximum wisdom, charisma, and intelligence. That way you have more skill points you can level up. And Jedi Consular, of course. That way you can do more and more damage. I just ended up force choking both of them and lightning them until they both died. And then we went back to the Ebon Hawk, where we were able to move on to the next planet. On Kashyyyk, which is the next planet that I took, honestly, to me, I just am going to include these parts in the run that were actually, a bit of trouble. I know it seems that I'm cutting it down, but the only thing in the beginning was Taurus. Dantooine and Korriban were easy. Like I said, just monotonous because you have to run back and forth. On Kashyyyk, which honestly, in my opinion, the worst planets in this game to kind of go to are Kashyyyk and Manon. Manon is monotonous. That's not a pun. That's just me. Kashyyyk, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the dull, dark atmosphere, but I just don't like it. This part is what troubled me. Essentially, you're supposed to answer questions by the droid here, which your companion Jolie, who unfortunately comes with you, but like I said before, I like to keep it solo most of the time unless, I'm forced to have companions. If I do have companions, I kind of engage solo mode, that way they don't follow me anymore. But in this section, it kind of troubled me a little bit. After using Jolie as a meat shield, we finally end up getting the star map for this area. Wasn't too difficult. I mean, Jolie is kind of a meat shield, and if I ever do another challenge video like this, I honestly will probably do Knights of the Old Republic 2, because you kind of start off with force powers, and you can assign force powers to your squad members. That way, they only use force powers as well. After returning to the upper part of Kashyyyk, we end up doing the dark side ending, which essentially just ends up revolving around us enslaving the Wookiees. And then, we kind of leave the planet and go to Manon, as there's nothing really left to do here. Now that we're on Manon, we do run into a slight problem. On Manon, there's an underwater section, as you can see on screen. In this section, there are Phyraxian sharks that you can only kill using a sonic emitter, even though you do end up using, quote-unquote, a force stance in the game. I don't really consider this too much of a force ability. I tried using force abilities, but since you're in the suit, it doesn't work. We're going to chalk this up as to a section where it needs to, use the sonic emitter, which I'm going to say it is kind of a force ability, but it isn't. I'm at a loss here. You also cannot outrun the sharks, primarily because, well, let's face it, they instantly kill you. After getting through the final section of the underwater section by killing the giant Phyraxian shark with poison, not the force, technically force poison, anyways, we end up getting the star map for this planet. After encountering Darth Bandon, which he was at the beginning of the game on the Endar Spire, we kind of shit-talk him a bit, and he kind of shit-talks us a little bit back and forth. I get a little too cocky in this fight and think that I can easily kill him by just ripping on him with Force Insanity and then Lightning, but unfortunately he does end up resisting it, and then he ends up force-choking me because he, has his abilities higher, and even though I tried to run when he was about to kill me, I couldn't do anything because force choke / kill has a certain amount of time that it kind of, incapacitates you. About 2 to 3 turns. So that's at that time the enemy can kind of get a lot of licks off on you. I reload the save and I end up, getting some really good hits on him. He doesn't resist my insanity at first, but then all the Dark Jedi start swarming me and my health starts getting incredibly low. So I keep trying to incapacitate him with force kill, and then the other Dark Jedi, they don't particularly resist my abilities, so therefore it's much easier to just eliminate them. And the fight is won. After that, we end up going to the surface of Manon, which results in us getting kicked off the planet, and we can no longer return here anyways, or at all. So there's no point in even us coming back here. I hate this place. It's a shithole. To me, it's probably one of, if not the worst planet in this game. Next to Kashyyyk, Manon is just like monotonous. Pun not intended. After planning our destination to Tatooine, we end up getting captured on the Leviathan. This is kind of like a surprise interlude in the game that no one really saw coming. And unfortunately, because I killed Juhani earlier and Bastila is stuck with our main team, I can't pick any other Force users, except for Jolie, because thank God we did Kashyyyk. Essentially, if we didn't do Kashyyyk, we would have actually been screwed, because we actually need to kill people in this section to unlock, the next part where we can free ourselves. I picked a couple skill points as Jolie, and I slowly made my way through the Leviathan. Now, like I had said earlier, if you have a light side character and you use light side abilities, they cost less force. But if you have a light side character and they use dark side abilities, it costs more. Looking back on this, Force Lightning was a very bad choice for Jolie, even though I didn't have to use him for very long, roughly 10 to 15 minutes, because I, found myself pretty quickly, my character in the game. Using Force, I believe it's Force Whirlwind, it's much better. Essentially, it takes over Force Push and pushes every single enemy in the room to the side, knocking them out and doing a great deal of damage. I wish I knew this sooner, but this section was easy nonetheless. It's kind of just, touch and go throughout. After finding our character, we make it to the bridge where we end up going up against Admiral Saul Careth. My main strategy for this fight was incapacitating the grenadier soldiers on the sides while my companions kind of distract whoever's behind me. Like I had said, the companions, I gave them no weapons, so they kind of do no damage. And this is something peculiar about the grenades section, or the grenadiers. They end up incapacitating me to the point where I can't use force abilities, which I found very strange. This run was very glitchy in terms of if I, for example, were to heal myself, I couldn't move and had to quick save and then reload the game. This is the first time that I ever have had this problem playing Knights of the Old Republic on my gaming PC. I'm unsure if it's the game or if it's actually the PC, but then again, I originally played Knights of the Old Republic on like the disc copy back when it came out in like 2006, which I'm pretty sure I still have the disc copy. Unfortunately, my PC doesn't have any, disc whatever. The fight proved to be very, very easy. Like I had said, as long as you can get Force Insanity off and incapacitate everyone and then use Force Kill, the fight is laughable at best. For the next quote-unquote boss section of the game, we go up against Darth Malak in the interlude to the final fight at the end. I chose to omit the cutscenes in this game, well, particularly this part, primarily because I would feel like I am robbing people of the surprise in this game. Even though some people, or if not anyone that's played this game, knows what the surprise is, I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to rob anyone. I recommend you play this game. It's one of my favorite games, and it's one of the best Star Wars games pretty much ever made. The Malak fight is kind of laughable in this section just because you just use Force Kill, and essentially, even though he has that jaw, like the magnetic jaw on his face, he kind of just, goes down with ease. Like, we are so over leveled force-wise at this point, it's easy. The second part revolves around us going around, and even though he kind of puts up a force field around him, get it? Force field, we still win the fight, and then Bastila comes in and gets herself trapped. After escaping the Leviathan, we get to the final planet where we have to find the Starforge key, star map pieces. That was a mouthful. For this planet, we need to get to the Dune Sea. The problem is we need to kill the Tusken chieftain. And we end up going into the village and we slaughter not only the Tusken men, but the women and the children. There were no children, but honestly, it's kind of just a prequel joke. The Tuskens are laughable. If you were to come to Tatooine, firstly, in this game, the Tusken Raiders are probably some of the hardest hitting enemies in the game. Remember I said that there are some enemies that will just one-shot you no matter what? Yeah, we slaughtered the Tusken Raiders like Anakin did in Attack of the Clones, and it was laughable at best. But after killing the chieftain, we slowly make our way into the Dune Sea, where we have to fight a dragon. I am not kidding about that. After getting some banthas, we kind of lure the dragon out to where we just blow it up with mines. Not my problem, it's the quest. Technically, we killed him with the Force because, he blew it. You know what? There's certain sections in this game that are winnable by cutscenes. Okay, guys, this is a meme. Relax. After the dragon's death, we get into the cave and activate the star map, where we are finally able to go to the Star Forge for the final part of the game. Before I went to the Star Forge, though, I wanted to make a stop off at the Yavin space station. After each planet, and you continuously go to the Yavin 4 space station, which on PC, it's available in the main game, but for some reason for Xbox, it's DLC. Anyways, once you go to the station towards the end of the game, before you head off to the Star Forge, Trandoshans will spawn. These Trandoshans are probably the biggest and heaviest hitters in the game, next to Darth Malak. Like, they are up there with Darth Malak, the final boss of the game. They are insanely healthy, so they have a vast amount of health. They do an insane amount of damage with and without energy shields, sorry. Even if you have the energy shields, they one-shot them. But after saving continuously and being able to get through this in about 10 to 15 minutes, I kill all the Trandoshans with ease. Now, one of the major things you are all probably wondering is, why did I go to the Yavin space station continuously? Well, in the game, there is a lightsaber crystal called the Mantle of the Force. This makes your Force energy regenerate 10 times faster, and it is a bit steep, about 25,000 credits, but if we sold a bunch of stuff and, did everything in the game and kind of didn't buy anything, we're absolutely fine. The Mantle of the Force is cheap compared to whatever the hell else we would find. There's also the Heart of the Guardian, which is for melee, but since this is a Force only, we wanted the Mantle of the Force. After heading to the Starforge directly after Yavin, we end up crash landing on the world just below the Starforge and encounter the Rakata, an ancient alien race that is responsible, and were the first Darkside users, fun fact, that created the Starforge, and the Starforge makes mass droid armies. I ended up putting the Mantle of the Force on a double-bladed lightsaber because I thought that would have been cool, and I tried it out and wanted to see how fast my Force would regenerate. Bear in mind, by this time, I'm around rank 18, 19, really just on the cusp of max level, which is 20 in this game, which is unfortunate, as there's no prestige, because this game is 2006, and they never even thought of anything of prestige. I had so much Force points, there was really no point in having the lightsaber at all. I ended up using it here and there just to kind of have it equipped because I worked so hard for it and I was so excited for it because it kind of gives it like a cayenne lightsaber tint, but I digress. It's not that good, and really towards the end of the game you don't really need it. If it was in the beginning of the game, it would have been nice because then that way our Force energy would regen faster. Like if we could get it on Dantooine or for Dantooine, it would have been 10 times better. Because essentially at that time, if you sold everything and did every single quest, you should have around 30,000 credits. Roughly. That's a rough estimate as to how much you should have. We end up facing off against the enemy known as the One, which I kind of stumbled onto their group by accident. I thought I could kill both of them, but then I realized you have to kill the dark side guys first, or I think it's the light side. They let you into the temple, and then you can kill the dark side because they don't want you to go in there at all. But essentially, I kind of just use Force Insanity on them all, and then just Force Storm, because by this point we have all the AoE Force abilities that just do a mass amount of damage, and these guys give... The Rancors give approximately 800 experience, and then the One gives you around 900, and then his followers give you around 600. So by this point, we're already going to reach max level, and we're still, about an hour to 2 hours away from beating the game. We do end up getting inside the temple with very ease because, we went up against the elders and told them we killed the One. And we end up encountering Bastila, and she kind of went like emo here. And unfortunately, this is going to be a big spoiler. Your companions, if you choose Darkside and say that you have Juhani and Jolie, who always accompany you here, and they must accompany you, that's why I have Jolie in my party, they will actually want to kill you. Bear in mind, I gave Jolie nothing, and he is severely underleveled and just garbage all around, so we kind of just both use Force Lightning, and he dies with ease. After killing Jolie, Careth kind of runs off like a little crybaby bitch, and Mission and Zalbar actually want to kill you, but this is what's really messed up. Is since Zalbar gave you his life in a life debt, and Wookiees have to abide by that due to tradition, and Mission says that she doesn't want, her around, him around, and he basically doesn't want you to turn dark side, you can force persuade Zalbar into killing Mission, who is literally like a sister to him. That's fucking dark, man. Like, that's actually fucked up. What's also really funny is when you go and talk to Zalbar on the Ebon Hawk, he doesn't even really say anything. He's just like, oh, I owe you a life debt, and I will help you until I die. Which is fucked up. Anyways, now that we're on the Starforge, we end up encountering a lot of Dark Jedi here, and a lot of Sith droids. And this section was truly difficult. No matter what, I feel like the difficulty spike in this game went from from hard to mediocre to easy to just unbearable. The amount of Dark Jedi and Sith droids that just bombard you continuously have you truly trying to master the courage and strength of the tediism that is all these guys coming at you. Because essentially, if you're not far enough from any enemies, your Force will not regenerate. So that's why I kind of put on the Mantle of the Force to kind of help me throughout this level. After fighting and killing probably like 30 Sith troopers, assassins, grenadiers, etc., etc., we end up getting the best piece of armor in the game. Again, all the good shit comes at the end of the game. I kind of like keeping these little like tidbits in here to prove that I'm, not just a robot. Anyways, we end up getting the dark side robes, which essentially enhance all of our force abilities. Like if we were doing a lot of damage before, we're going to do 10 times the amount of damage now. I kind of took off my mask to kind of see if I would, get like a cool mask that wasn't just like a piece of cloth over my face, but I digress. Also, for those wondering, I'm using the Sith mask primarily because it helps you with mind affecting powers, so you won't end up getting stunned. That's why Force like choke works on us, because, well, it's not a mind affecting power, it's them literally choking you. After the tediism that was getting through the Starforge and killing probably 200 guys, we end up getting to the 3 fuckboys of the end of the game that are kind of the replacement for Bastila. If you're doing a light side playthrough, you'd face Bastila. Since it's the dark side playthrough, you kind of face the 3 musketeers, and these guys are simple and easy. I use Force Insanity to kind of whittle them down. I use Death Field to drain their health as much as possible, which Death Field and Force Storm in Knights of the Old Republic 2, night and day. Oh my god. Force Storm and Death Field are the best abilities by far. In this game, they're good. Knights of the Old Republic 2, they're one-shotting people left and right. But overall, we kind of just keep stunning them with Force Insanity, and then we just keep on using, Force Storm. They did end up getting off a Force Choke on me, but because Bastila is still with me, and because I have Death Field, which will drain all their health, I kind of just keep using that ability because they are essentially whittling down my health bit by bit by bit. But because I'm me, and I'm a god at this game, I just kept draining their health to the point where they were just, dead. I mean, they weren't that hard to begin with, so what was Darth Malak expecting when he assigned them to kill us? After that fight, there's kind of a section with the little Sith droids in the facility. I chose to omit that because it is just tediism at its finest, and we kind of just use Destroy Droid and Force Storm and shut them down more and more and more and more and more, and just whittle them down as we keep going. Basically, for the final fight of the game, again, it's not too hard. We've kind of developed a strategy where we just use either Plague to whittle down his health, so he's also slower. I got that ability. Force Insanity to stun them, and then Force Storm or drain health. In the fight, Darth Malak will kind of use all these guys around us to just, gain his health back. But as long as you go up to all of them and use either Death Field or Force Storm, they're, well, laughable. I mean, the fight is supposed to be like the big bad, and if you don't know what you're doing, this can be pretty tedious, and it can be very dangerous. But in the end, were we able to beat Knights of the Old Republic with only Force abilities? Yes. This was a really fun run, as I wanted to replay this game because it is and always will be one of my favorite games. It's really sad, though, that the game unfortunately hasn't aged very well in terms of content. By content, I mean it's very bare bones compared to games nowadays. Still fun, but what else can you expect? This game is still regarded as one of the best, and if not the best Star Wars game. Some would like to disagree, some agree, some people, whatever. There was a remaster in the works, but unfortunately this game did not get the green light. I'm hoping you guys kind of enjoyed this challenge video. I know there was a lot to cover because this game is so massive, and I want to get better at these challenge videos. I plan on doing more script work while doing this, like rewatching all the footage and kind of putting in more jokes and all that. But at the end of the fight, we end up killing Darth Malak. Not that hard, and I chose to omit the ending for all you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm hoping to see you on the next challenge video. Do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, hit the notification box. I'm posting weekly content as much as I can. I am back to work as well, but I will try to do more challenge videos. The next challenge video is coming to you guys soon, but just tell me what you guys thought or any other challenges down below in any game. I'm open to anything to hear from you guys. Anyways, have a great day, and peace out.